I just finished testing every book platform that I could find. That's 13 platforms where you can track, record, and keep tabs on the books you've read or have yet to read. Some you have heard of, some you probably haven't. In this video, I'm going to save you the time it takes to set each one up and test them out by showing you what they look like, what features they offer, and what I think. I created a criteria so we can look at each platform through the same lens. The onboarding, the design of the app or website, how easy it is to organize your library, what their book database is like, what reviews are like, the social or community features it has, and lastly, its unique selling point. Finally, I'm going to put each platform into a tier list so we can see how they stack up with each other. Of course, this is how the platforms stand at the point of making this video, so check the date. And this is also my opinion, so keep that in mind. Let's start with the most popular book platform out there, Goodreads. I've talked about Goodreads a lot in general on this channel, so if you want to know my thoughts on it and Amazon in detail, I'll leave the links to those videos in the description. For this video, we'll focus on the criteria I set out earlier. I had to sign up for a new Goodreads account to test their onboarding, and it was okay. The first thing you do is select the genres you like, then you rate or add some books based on this selection, and then it suggests some friends or communities you might want to add. That's essentially it. It's okay as far as onboarding goes, but the books it shows you could be better or honestly more modern. Goodreads' design hasn't changed much since I joined in 2014. It has always had this kind of brown, cream, and green color scheme. It's one of the complaints people have had about the platform, but it's also just so happens to be one of the things some people like about it too. Goodreads has both the desktop version of the platform and the app. I'd say the app is kind of ugly, if I'm honest. The website looks a lot better. Goodreads has some pretty decent library organization. You can create bookshelves to categorize your books and keep track of them. Creating a shelf is easy, adding books to one is easy too, but once created, they're a little boring and stale. Goodreads by far has the best book database on this list for one simple reason. It uses Amazon. This means it has a huge database of books to pull from, and because it's the most used platform out there, it's going to be way more common to find user-added books too. Reviews are where Goodreads shines, at least in some aspects. I'll talk about the positives first, because Goodreads has been around for so long and is the most used of the platforms on this list. It has a lot of reviews. The review writing section is simple. Leave a star rating and add some text, that's it. No fancy rating systems, just stars and words. There are some negatives to all this though. Goodreads doesn't offer half-star ratings no matter how much people beg them to add them. It also doesn't offer more in the way of content warnings, and its spoiler hiding system is very basic. The social elements in Goodreads is a bit lackluster. You can see what your friends are reading, their thoughts, reviews, etc. But the only reason I believe people stick to Goodreads for its social features is simply that almost every active reader you can think of likely has a Goodreads profile, or did once upon a time. I was trying to think of Goodreads' unique selling point, but honestly, I can't think of one. It doesn't have anything to really stand out now other than be the largest, longest standing platform out there. I gave up using Goodreads this year because it doesn't get updates, and of course it's Amazon. I'm putting it in just no. The StoryGraph's onboarding, I think, is really good. They've thought about how to get you settled into the app and walk you through pretty much every key feature you might be confused about if you knew nothing about the platform. I would say the StoryGraph isn't known for its beautiful design. It's more functional and simple than it is pretty. However, I do think that's how it appeals to a lot of people. It's clear, bold, and lets the covers of the books on your shelves shine. Everything for the most part is easy to find and use. The library organization of the StoryGraph is pretty similar to Goodreads. Instead of shelves, you create tags that host your books. As an added bonus, you can filter these, which I find particularly useful. For example, you can find books in your tag that have a particular mood or pace, but the one I find most useful is page count. This way I can find shorter books if I don't have a lot of time, or a longer one if I'm feeling ambitious, which, let's be honest, never happens. The StoryGraph's database is perhaps one of its weakest points. Some users have been known to leave because books are just not there. either at all or in a particular format or language. There are ways to add books you can't find, of course, but it's quite a bit of an effort to do this for a lot of books. Reviews are a big part of what makes the StoryGraph great, although they're not perfect. They have options to pick mood, pacing, features within the book, half and quarter stars, and content warnings. Some might find this overwhelming, but I personally find it incredibly useful to find a breakdown of all these things on the book's page. Because the StoryGraph has so many options when submitting your review, I do think it gives users fatigue though, and it might discourage written reviews, but that's just a theory. In terms of social elements, the StoryGraph has a community feed where you can like, but not comment on updates, and it also has a community features like buddy reads, read-alongs, and book clubs. To me, the StoryGraph does a great job with buddy reads and read-alongs. They're fun to use and set up. The only reason I don't use them is because I have both of these things in my Discord server. The unique selling point of the StoryGraph is, of course, the stats. This is the feature that drew people to the platform in the first place, especially as a Goodreads competitor. When you use the StoryGraph for logging your books, you'll get fun graphics, charts, and breakdowns of your progress. I really enjoy looking at and sharing these with my community each month. The StoryGraph is a solid platform for me and one I really enjoy using, so we're putting it in, love it, and using it. Fable doesn't have an onboarding process or page. Instead, you're thrust into the app. I think this is a shame. Fable has some good features, so a walkthrough would be very useful. Instead, I headed straight for the import feature. They only allow you to import from Goodreads, but the process is pretty simple if you're happy to log into Goodreads through the Fable app. Fable's design is probably one of my favorites on this list. It's clean, modern, but is still pretty colorful. The difference with Fable is that it's an app only. They don't have a desktop version of the platform. Fable uses quite a few different AI features. One to note is their reader summary, which over the years has been the source of some controversy with the AI saying things it absolutely should not, so keep that in mind. Fable's library organization is pretty simple. You can set up reading lists much like tags and shelves in other platforms. You can filter and sort them, and Fable comes with an additional feature called Scout's Pick, which is essentially an AI feature used throughout the site. In this case, Scout will pick a book for you at random. Fable also allows you to log the shows or films you watch, which sets it apart from some of the other book tracking platforms on this list. I couldn't find any information on how Fable's book database was created or what it's based on. I've not really had any issues finding books on the platform personally, but if you do, you can request a book be added using either their Google form or Chrome browser extension. For reviews, Fable walks you through a series of steps, starting with your star rating, which allows for quarter and half stars, then how the book made you feel, how you would describe the book, and space for a written review. This kind of review system works well for the platform and looks great if you want an at-a-glance thoughts on a book, but it might not work for people who want something a little more detailed. The social elements of Fable are where it shines. Fable has a home feed which doesn't just show reviews or reading updates, but posts too, much like a social media platform. Users can post images, text posts, or quotes, and they can tag specific books, TV shows, or book clubs within that post. One of the main selling points of Fable is the book clubs. Users can create their own clubs, have a chat room, book recs, and books they will be reading for that month, complete with spoiler-free milestones. There are a lot of influencer-led book clubs in Fable, including clubs created by people like Jack Edwards. Fable's unique selling point is everything social. If you're essentially looking for a book platform that's very close to social media, you've got it in Fable. I enjoyed using Fable as a platform. I think it's reliable, looks great, and definitely has some appeal. For me though, the kind of social media elements Fable has are just not something I use, so I'm going to put it in great, but not for me. Pagebound's onboarding is great. Once you've created your account, you get to personalize your profile, which is quick and easy. Then the platform gives you a checklist of things you can do to get you set up and running. Pagebound has a very unique design. It's like the old web, very colorful, bold, and nostalgic. It makes emojis a priority for its reviews, recommendations, and lists, but despite so much boldness and color, it's not overwhelming, at least to me. Library organization in Pagebound is pretty similar to the rest of the platforms on this list. You have custom shelves you can create with basic filtering. They also have an interested shelf. Instead of having a huge number of books on your TBR that you're not sure if you want to read or not, you can add books to interested, which I think is pretty cool. One of my favorite parts about Pagebound is the lists. These are curated lists you can create and name to showcase books. Think of them like a music playlist. People create these for others to see, upgrade, downgrade, and save. I personally think they're fantastic for book discovery. Pagebound's book database isn't the best, and they've been pretty transparent about that. It's one of the newest platforms on this list, so there's still time for them to improve it, but for now, know that their database is perhaps not the reason why you might want to use Pagebound. Reviews on Pagebound are pretty basic. You're given a rating system to follow for the book, which you can give half stars for. You can then add up to 3 emojis to describe the book. I happen to quite like this. It's just a bit of fun. Pagebound's social elements are pretty unique. In their words, it's like if Reddit and Goodreads had a baby. In your home feed, you can see people's updates on the books you've read, updates from people you're following, and you can like and comment on them. In their forum areas, you can upvote and downvote people's posts. It makes the platform more community-minded and encourages interaction, especially because you get points for doing so. Pagebound's unique selling point is the fact that there's no AI used in the platform, and the creators said there never will be. It's also like stepping back a little in time when the internet used to feel like fun. Alongside this, Pagebound uses a lot of gamification. You can earn points while interacting on the platform, and you can go on quests which give you awards when you complete them. These awards can be displayed on your profile. I've not found these gamify elements to be too intense or influence my reading at all. Nor do I really use them personally, so if you're curious, I'd give it a try. I've only recently started using Pagebound. It has maybe been a month, but I'm really enjoying it for discovering new books in particular and seeing what people are saying in the forum. So for now, I'm putting it in, loving it, and using it. Bookmory has essentially no onboarding. When you open the app, you're faced with a page where you can add your books in various sections. It's pretty straightforward, so maybe onboarding isn't necessary in this case. One thing I like about this though is that it doesn't require an email address or an account from the get-go. You can just get to using it. Bookmory is a reading platform that allows you to track your books, but it also has things like a reading timer, a note system, and achievements. Bookmory's design is very safe. Its blue and cream theme makes it a very unassuming and accessible for everyone. The choice of font makes it very easy to read, and in general, it's very clear and easy to use app. Bookmory has no import feature that I could find, so if you want to use it as a platform, you'd be starting from scratch or adding your books manually. Once you have them added, you can create collections of books within your library, much like you would any other platform. One of the things that Bookmory does well is the series section. You can mark books as part of a series and then look at them as a kind of collection in your library. To me, that is very satisfying. Because Bookmory has no import feature, it's hard to say if its database is any good. However, adding books is pretty easy, and you have multiple methods for doing so. These are by search, as in through their database, by barcode via your camera, or by input, which means you manually add the books yourself. Not bad if you have an obscure book to add to your library. Reviews on Bookmory are very basic. You have a star rating and then a text area to write your review. That's essentially it. As for social elements, Bookmory has none. It's a solo book tracking app, so there are no user profiles, no friends, and absolutely no social features whatsoever. The unique selling point of Bookmory, I think, is the notes and timer features. If you're reading a book and have some thoughts you want to get down, some quotes you want to save, you can do so within the app either via manual input or from a photograph. The frustrating thing with this experience though is that if you want to do either of the latter two, you have to pay for the premium version of the app or watch an ad to use it. For the timer, you can essentially set up a reading session for your current book and have a timer or countdown running. Once you're done, you can input how many pages you read in that session, and it saves it for you on the book page. It also calculates your reading speed and gives you an idea of how long it might take you to read the rest of the book, which is pretty cool. Bookmory has some real potential, but because you can't import your existing library, I'm thinking it would work better as a companion app to your main book tracking platform. So for that reason, I'm going to put Bookmory in has potential. Bookly's onboarding is pretty good if you ignore the not 1 but 3 ad pop-ups I got for the premium version of the app. I've not even used it yet, so it feels a bit much. It has a proper step-by-step onboarding, which is pretty cool, and the app itself focuses a lot on helping you develop a reading habit and schedule. So while it is a book tracking platform, I'd say it's not the main reason why you would use something like Bookly. Bookly has a pretty nice design. It feels very app-like, which works because, well, that's what it is. There is no desktop version of Bookly. Once you've added a few books to Bookly, they look really cool in the My Books section, and scrolling through them in this way is a lot of fun. The thing that frustrated me about Bookly was that its import feature was locked behind a paywall. If I wanted to add my years of book reading to this platform, I would have to do so manually. Alongside this, there's a 10-book limit on the free account, so it would only have the data of my reading goals and stats from the moment I started using it, and I could only add 10 books before I would have to pay. Having said that, Bookly does have some library organization, although it's very basic. You can set up collections within the app, and there are some created by default. It's hard for me to comment on Bookly's database because I couldn't import my entire library of books without paying, and even then you can only do so with Goodreads. However, they do have a few different methods of adding books, searching online via ISBN, which you can scan with your camera, or entering them manually. Reviews in Bookly are pretty interesting. You add a star rating as usual and your written review, but you can also add additional ratings for a specific set of traits. It adds another dimension to the reviewing experience, but it's a shame because it's only visible to you. This kind of thing would be very useful on a more social platform. Which brings me on to the social elements. Bookly doesn't have any because it's not a social platform, it's a book tracking app. So you won't see other Bookly users, the books they have read, the reviews they write, none of it. It's all private and just for you. A bonus if you like that kind of thing. The unique selling point of Bookly is the ability to track your reading progress as a habit. It encourages this with the calendar days, specific stats on books, daily goals, and reminders. I will say though, there's an element of gamification here and microtransactions that I don't like. Certain features are locked under a premium subscription, and they have an in-app currency called diamonds, which says you get more by reading more. The types of things you might want to upgrade with are so expensive, you would probably feel the pull towards your wallet just to get them. Either that, or you'll watch some ads just to get more currency, which to me defeats the point of an app that's trying to encourage you to read. I like some aspects of Bookly, but because it has no import feature and because it has microtransactions and in-game currency, I'm going to put it in just no. Libib is probably one of the simpler platforms on this list because its main focus is creating a catalogue of your books, music, films, video games, and board games. Essentially, it's not just for books. I decided to sign up via the app, and while the onboarding process was very simple, it didn't need to be any more complicated. Libib's design could not be more straightforward. It has basically one purpose, which is to help you catalogue your media, and it looks pretty good doing it. The library organization couldn't be more basic. You can create collections, and that's about it. But the interesting thing about these collections is if you can mix your media. So you could have a collection that encompasses board games and books should you want to. Libib doesn't really have a book database. Instead, you manually add your books or use your camera to scan the barcode. It will then add them for you in a log. It's easy to use, but does require a lot of manual work. Reviews on Libib do exist, but they are basic. You can give it a rating, include half stars, and then add a review in a very basic text area. That's essentially it. There are no social elements in Libib. It's not the point of the app. Libib's unique selling point is that it does one thing and does it well. If you're only interested in understanding what you have for multiple different media types in one place, Libib is an excellent platform for that. For that reason, I'm going to put it in solid. I can think of a few people who would find this really useful. Hardcover has an interesting onboarding experience. When first opening Hardcover, you're presented with a very basic version of it. That's when the onboarding experience starts. You get to pick your profile image, your username, and then you're given the option to import your library from Goodreads or the StoryGraph, or a CSV file. Once done, it asks you to add a reading goal, follow some other people, and finally to add some more specific details about yourself should you want to. I like the design of Hardcover. It's clean and bold. I also quite like the design of the profile images. They're cute in their own way. Although some of the yellow notices within the app are very bright compared to the rest of the interface. Hardcover works with lists as a way of categorizing your books. For me, this imported the StoryGraph tags and automatically converted them to lists. These lists have extra features like telling you how many books you've read in the list, and you can change how you view them with some layout changes. You can also like other people's lists, which is pretty fun. Hardcover's book database seems pretty solid. Importing from the StoryGraph was pretty quick, and once done you get a notification which, when clicked, shows you how the import did and if any of the books failed when adding to your library. This would be particularly useful if you weren't sure which books were imported or not. If you spot a book missing on hardcover, however, you can submit it pretty easily. Reviews on hardcover are interesting. You can add half stars and write your review as usual, but there are a few extra features which I think are pretty clever. The first is marking your review as a sponsored or ARC review. I think all book platforms should have this as a feature so readers know when reviews are incentivized in some way. Then there's a space to add private notes that only you see. This is particularly useful if you want to remember something down the line, but if you don't want to write a public review. Right at the bottom is a place to add a URL of the review and then your media URL. Hardcover seems to be encouraging content creators to use the platform as their platform of choice for sharing reviews. The social elements of hardcover, to me at least, seem to work best in their book discovery. On hardcover, there's a tab called Explore, and quite honestly, the options here are overwhelming at first, but look pretty cool. I'll merge this with the unique selling point because hardcover has a few interesting features that I'll highlight. The first is prompts, which are essentially questions you can ask the book community, and in the answers, users will recommend books. Another feature I really like in hardcover is the way it shows upcoming books. No need to research this yourself. Hardcover shows you. I've got to give it to hardcover. There are a lot of features within the app that other platforms on this list are missing. They're doing a great job in my short time there, so I'm going to put it in solid. Italic Type's onboarding was a little different from the other platforms on this list because although it says it's an app, I couldn't actually find evidence of an app for your phone. Instead, it looks like it's a website-only app. So I signed up via their website. I had some trouble getting through to the main account and then verifying my email, but once I was in, the actual onboarding was pretty simple. Italic Type is very simple and minimalistic in both design and features. I personally think it looks quite good. The design is clean and not at all overwhelming, but due to the lack of features within the platform, it can look quite barren. Alongside this, some of the covers for the books are either outdated or really low quality. A lot of them are blurry, which I also think is a real shame. Library organization feels pretty much non-existent with Italic Type. You can add tags to books, but you don't seem to be able to use those tags to form lists. Italic Type does have an import feature which allows you to import from Goodreads, the StoryGraph, or a CSV file. However, I had some real problems with the books it imported. There were books added to my completed books that I have never seen before in my life. I imported from the StoryGraph, which is my most used platform, so the only thing I can think is happening is it couldn't find the book it's trying to import, so it opts to import the next best thing instead. You do get an email after the import telling you which books weren't added though, which is useful. However, when I checked to see if I could add them, they were on the site already, just not added to my library. Kind of frustrating. It means you'd have to go through your entire list to clean it up after, which is a shame. They do say this is a new feature, so it has the possibility of being improved over time. Reviews are very basic, but they do have a few additional things that are interesting. It asks for your thoughts on the book and allows you to select from some interesting buttons, and then you can write your review, plus star rating with half stars. This was a little clunky to use, but I got there in the end. It is quite difficult to find your reviews once you've written them though. They kind of disappear into the platform. Italic Type seems like a solo kind of platform. You can't see anyone else's reviews or activity. It's just you on your own. Except if you want to read a book at the same time as someone else, then you can invite them to a chat room you both use together to discuss the book. I would say that the book board is perhaps one of the unique selling points of Italic Type. Essentially, you can write notes on a book as you go in a note-taking type environment. In general, I think Italic Type could do with some work to make it a really great platform, because I am sure there are plenty of readers who would like the style and solo nature of it. For now, I'm putting it in has potential. Onboarding for Bookshelf was pretty much non-existent. You sign up and then you're thrown into the app. So one of the first things I did was import the StoryGraph library using their CSV import options. The frustrating thing with this though is that it gives you an estimated time it would take and then a percentage counter for how much it has imported, which meant I had to keep the app open for the length of time it took to import my library. I couldn't do anything else on my phone. Other platforms take a better approach to this, allowing you to explore the app while the import is happening. Bookshelf's design is pretty good. It's clear and easy to navigate for the most part, but I did have some issues figuring out what was what within the app. Without a clear onboarding, you are essentially left to fend for yourself. If that's the case, navigation needs to be a lot clearer to allow newbies to get the hang of things. Something to also note is that there are ads within Bookshelf, which are typically appear at the bottom of the app screen. There's also a pro plan. The library organization is okay. The import feature forces you to pick a shelf to add your imported CSV file to, which meant all my books, no matter if I had read them or not, got added to one big bookshelf. You can filter this in loads of different ways, which is pretty cool, but I wish I didn't have to. If I had added them manually, I would have created different shelves. The book database seemed okay, but from my import, it struggled to find details on some pretty big books, notably Philip Pullman's His Dark Materials series. My books that were imported had no details, but the books are in the app, so I'm not sure what happened there. It might have been that I read them as audiobooks and maybe the app doesn't track audiobooks or have those as additions. Reviews are basic in Bookshelf. You add your star rating with half stars and then there's a text area for you to add your written review. Bookshelf does have some social features. You can follow and be followed by others and interact with their activity. I'd say the unique selling point for Bookshelf is its book logging features. You can set if you've lent or borrowed a book, if you've purchased it or were gifted it. You can say if you have sold or donated it, add notes, what condition it's in, if it's signed, and loads more. That's pretty detailed stuff, and if you're looking for an app that lets you track all of these things, it might be a good fit for you. For me though, Bookshelf felt a little clunky, so I'm gonna put it in mid. BookPine doesn't have any onboarding. You essentially create your account and then you're left to explore the app. So the first thing I did was import my library from the StoryGraph. It added all my custom shelves and tags from the StoryGraph, but it didn't actually put any of those books in my shelves, nor did it seem to put my read books in the read category, so all my books were jumbled together, which is a real shame. The design of BookPine is a little lackluster. It's hard to find where things are located or how to use certain features. Especially after import, I couldn't seem to work out how to use my shelves or even see the books in my shelves. There were also things called lists, but creating one was a strange experience and I was unsure how to add books to them. Library organization in BookPine is okay, but a little clunky. You can organize it like you would on most other platforms, but understanding how to do it is a challenge without a walkthrough or onboarding. The book database could be better, but interestingly, as I was importing, there were 28 books it added to my library that they didn't have within their database. BookPine created these as private books. I'm guessing so I can check the data and keep them in my library without them being public. The review system in BookPine is pretty basic. You can add your star rating, written review like usual, but it also has some extra features called Emotional Palette, which does add a little extra something, but it doesn't seem to inform the book's public page, which is a shame. There is a community tab on BookPine, but it's unclear how to follow people or gain followers. It seems to me that BookPine's unique selling point might be its AI features, which is not something I'm personally interested in. When on a book page, you can get a summary of the book, show similar books, get suggestions for what to read next, and it will tell you about the author. They also seem to have an AI chatbot built in too. BookPine could do with some finessing on onboarding or welcome screen, and in general, it's just not for me. I'm gonna put it in just no for that reason, but I totally think it could move up with a little work. When you first open Anobii, you're greeted with their onboarding screen. It essentially tells you the basics of what you can do with the app. The first thing I tried looking for was the import feature. Anobii doesn't have this, so you have to add your books to the platform manually. It does come with a barcode scanner, but I tried this a few times with the books I'm currently reading and it couldn't find them at all. They were in the app database though, so I'm not sure why this feature didn't work for me. The design of Anobii is okay. It's pretty simple with black, grey and orange being the primary color scheme. I wouldn't call it pretty, but it doesn't hurt. I would say though, I'm not keen on how some of the book covers are displayed. Even super popular books like Fourth Wing look stretched or blurry. In Anobii, you can create collections within the app to categorize books. Although I think it would be useful if you could add books to collections from the book page too. You also seem to be able to follow other people's collections, which could be good for book discovery. I have struggled to test the book database without an import feature, but so far it looks okay. Searching for books is pretty straightforward, but if you have a large collection, adding them manually, especially if the scanner isn't working, could be a pain. Reviews are very simple, just a star rating and room for a written review. That's essentially it. The social elements of Anobii look questionable. They have groups you can join with various topics, although I could only see 2, which have forums where people can post discussion points and reply to posts. As you can see, I have blurred this screen. These groups are not moderated at all. They are filled with gambling ads, AI discussions, and stuff in languages I cannot read, so I'm too scared to show you. I'm not even going to talk about the unique selling point for this one because until they sort this issue, which quite frankly makes their platform dangerous, I'm putting it in just no. BookTowers is a little different. While it allows you to track your reading, it's less about organization and more about habit tracking. In terms of onboarding, BookTowers doesn't really have any. You're just kind of left to explore, which is a shame. It left me a little confused as to what I was looking at or doing most of the time. Having said this, the design is pretty cute. There are little characters that you can customize, and in general, it has a pretty fun look to it. As far as I can tell, there is no library organization in BookTowers except for the standard reading done, stop, and wish list they have in place. If you want more than that, you probably won't find it with BookTowers. Because there's no import feature, again, it's hard to test if BookTowers has a good database. One thing I did find interesting though was the quality of the book covers. Some were blurry, which is a real shame for an app that generally looks pretty good. Reviews are very basic, just a star rating with half stars and a quick review section. The app seems to want you to keep this short. There are no social elements in BookTowers. Instead, the unique selling point of this app is partly the calendar, where you can visually see all the books you finished and when, as well as some stats. But mostly the character story element where you can gain levels, and with those levels you can upgrade your character and accessories to create a cute visual graphic to share on social media. It's gamified, so when you read a book you get coins that you can use to customize things. Although with a lot of these gamified apps, if you want to customize even more, you have to pay for it. In other words, there are microtransactions in this one and a pro tier too. I'm not a fan of microtransactions in my book apps, nor am I really happy that you can't import or organize this one, so I'm going to put it in mid. That wraps up my experience with all of these book platforms. As is probably obvious from the tier ranker, I have my favorites, but these platforms, for the most part, are constantly updating and improving, so I might have to do another one of these next year. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these, and I'll see you next time for another video.